Hello, welcome to another EagleSix Airsoft video. Today we're going to be testing this M14. This has had a DMR conversion onto it. I believe that it's a Cyma M14 and we have done a few things. Firstly, we did some range testing you know, just to kind of initially see where we were at with regards to range and accuracy already. And it could barely shoot 30 meters. So obviously we've got an issue, two in fact, because obviously when you're designing builds and trying to come up with this stuff, you know, is it something that you need to upgrade and gain more for the customer? Because usually the question is, well, what are you looking for out of upgrades, you know, as opposed to just fitting parts randomly. And obviously in this particular case, it's I would like more range and accuracy. And like, well, when it's going, you know, 40 meters maximum, you know, in a downward arc, you know, to the floor, then yeah, you know, of course you want more range and accuracy. It's terrible. So yeah, we obviously then had to sort of weigh up, well, you know, is the customer asking for a DMR, if you know what I mean? You know, just because obviously maybe they think that's how it should be, you know, for airsoft guns. So obviously we had to initially start maybe even looking at just why this gun is shooting so badly. So we reseated all of the hop unit, which we didn't think was in the correct position. I think it was getting maybe jammed down, obviously put a bigger spring in there, and then sort of went down the route of doing the DMR conversion at the least possible cost, we found huge FPS losses on this, you know. So obviously it's cumulative, all these things are all adding together to just produce really bad range and really bad accuracy, you know, for this gun. So yeah, so we've had two in the end. To cut a long story short, we have replaced the air nozzle and cylinder head in attempts to obviously try and improve air seals. New O-ring on the cylinder, sorry, the piston head, you know, trying again to up the FPS. We had to go quite large on the spring, so M14 Prometheus spring, and a spring guide in there as well to compress the spring a bit more. We've also, because it's a DMR build, we've gone with the Prometheus Flat Nub and purple hop rubbers. We had to fit a new purple hop rubber, even though it had one in there, just to simply rule that out as FPS loss. In the end, we managed to get the FPS upwards of 435 on 0.2s and 270 on 4.3s. Okay, so the maximum is really complicated, as always with FPS limits. The 4.3 measurement there is 20 under the limit. Okay, so for a sniper DMR going at any site that has a 425 DMR limit on single shots, so that's absolutely fine. If anything, it could come up. Okay, but you stick some twos in there, this where it gets complicated. You're now getting 435 on that hop setting for being able to lift 4.3 ammo to a decent distance. So yeah, complicated. So we think that this is pretty good. Like I say, if we were to take it to the majority of sites nearby, those sites using progressive, you know, methods of measuring what an airsoft gun is actually doing, that would be fine. Obviously, if you go to one of those old schools, tuck in the old times, you know, they'll tip everything out, put some 0.2s in there, you know. It's an inaccurate way of measuring, but it's their way, and at the end of the day, it's their way or the highway with those particular sites. So check with where you're playing at to see what kind of a site they are. Like I say, whether they're using the new way or the old way, and then feel free to get back to us. But we think we're pretty dialed in with this FPS. As with all our builds, if we need to go up and down, the build's now done, so we can effectively do that relatively easily-ish. And that should not be a problem going up and down. But yeah, would we have yeah, like I say, I think we're fairly dialed in, which is why we're at videoing stage, obviously for you to go over this video and see if it's something you're after. So and again, just to mention that again, so it's 435 on 0.2s and 270 on 4.3s. So yeah, we're just also spec wise, we've got the warfet gate MOSFET, because obviously once you've gone over to a single shot DMR on an M14, you're going to want to try and preserve that switch life that's on there, the contact switch set, for as long as possible. Otherwise you're going to have to start looking into some sort of conversion and stuff if it ever fails. So yeah, we're fairly dialed in there with the gate warfet. And we've also got, obviously with a spring that large, we've had to fit a high torque motor in there, otherwise the stock motor would just really not work with it. Even then, obviously with this build and the size of spring there, you know, we know people's propensity for pulling the trigger rapidly. We would probably also recommend using the 11-volt battery with this, just because of the size of that spring, in order to make sure you can complete trigger pulls. But yeah, other than that, that's the build. We'll put all the build in the description, and I'll just demo it now just to make sure you can sort of see it working. So with a mag. There we go. So as you can see, it's nice and fast on those single shots, and we were getting no lock up there, but we are testing with an 11 volt, and it's quite rare that we test with 11 volts. There we go. So all tested and working. Obviously that's quite a lot of shots, you know, for a DMR in very rapid succession. Probably not going to be doing that in the day, bearing in mind obviously we've designed this around using 4.3 ammo, and obviously taking our measurements on 4.3 ammo, because obviously snipers are obviously going to want to, you know, their shots to be as long range and as accurate as possible, and you do that with heavier ammo. So so it improves consistency on every gun, you know, not just obviously DMRs, but because it's got obviously the high FPS, we can now obviously use those heavier ammos and send them at obviously a decent pace that people aren't just going to dodge out the way of them. So so obviously sacrificing the you know, full auto is not so bad, and obviously you have that rapid fire. Obviously I'll put all the full description in the video, but otherwise it should be ready for collection, unless you have any problems, but feel free to let us know. Thank you.